Welcome to the Mason Dukacek Show. And before we jump in, this episode is brought to you by workforcealchemy.com, helping leaders uncover hidden profit leaks inside their workforce. Sue Hawks is the CEO of Yes and a best-selling author, keynote speaker, and certified business coach who has spent decades inside leadership teams, helping them actually execute, not just talk about it. She's a contributor to Forbes, Fast Company, Inc., and Entrepreneur. And her latest book, Issues, Remove Friction, Fast Track Your Growth, and Ignite Your Greatness, focuses on eliminating the hidden friction that stalls growth. Sue is known for helping leaders confront what they have been avoiding and turning those moments into real traction. Sue, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me, Mason.
So take me inside a leadership team that you worked with where everything looked fine on the surface, but wasn't. What was actually being avoided?
It's hard to only pick one, Mason, because it's almost every single one, right?
Well, just give me a good one. How about let's start with your favorite.
Yeah, well, I'll give you one of them, and thank you for the invite. There was this awesome company. On paper, you would want everything they had. High profit, investment company, did incredibly well. And there was some tension. It won't surprise most of your listeners, I'm sure, between ops and sales. And they were a pretty polite group. I'm from the Midwest. We were talking a little bit about that. And so, they were very nice in the room compared to what some, I'll just say, more diverse teams from other parts with maybe a little more Italian on their team might come at each other. So this team was very amiable, and there was clearly a little tension in a conversation, and we broke for lunch, and one of the leaders left. It happened to be the sales leader. And to me, I was going, this is a little bit funky, but not super unusual. Again, a little bit of tension. And they got a text during lunch, which was maybe 5 minutes later because we were just going to break for a short while and keep going. And the sales leaders told the CEO, I'm not coming back. I have some calls to make, et cetera, et cetera. And we were supposed to be together for the whole day. So the CEO looked at me and said, oh, he had some things come up. He has to go manage them. And I was going, I don't think those are things. And I said, well, then we'll end our day here because we go as a team. In the work I do with EOS, we do everything together. So if he's got things that are more important than the work we're doing, we'll call it at a half day. We'll finish lunch. We'll pick this up in our next session or whenever you guys are ready to confront this. And the CEO's face went white. And so he left the room. He said, let me see what I can do. And he walked out and the texting began, and the rest of the team nervously ate their lunch and left and went to the restroom and all kinds of things people do when they go, this isn't going the way we hoped it would, that we would just carry on without that person in the room. And so I said, let's just take a break. The rest of you, if you have things to do, this is going to take a bit. So after about 20 minutes, the CEO catches me in the hallway, and I happen to office in the back of an accounting firm at this time. And he grabs me by the shoulders and he says, Sue, we don't do things like this. And I looked at him and I put my arms back in his shoulders very gently and I said, I do. And he got tears in his eyes. And he said, in the history of our company, we do not handle it while it's here. And I said, well, if he doesn't come back, I got to tell you, we're going no further anyway. It's just table dressing. And that was the moment for that team where they got very honest. And it was only our second day together, or day and a half at that point. The leader came back. And then I just said, whatever our agenda was, isn't that important. The agenda is this. So what do we need to talk about and how do we make it safe enough? And that was some of the verbiage I used so we can have an honest conversation because no one should feel like they need to leave. And I want you to know you're not wrong for that. Team's not wrong for giving you space, but we can't walk away from it and not address it. And I will say that was one of the more gentle times it happened, but that team embraced it so phenomenally well, Mason, that they just went straight forward into it. And it honestly unlocked Their ability to go, we can do this very gently, very peacefully. They're a really collegial team, but it was just a moment where their team didn't do things like that. You don't confront it.
But what was being avoided?
The tension between ops and sales, the ops leader had said some things that to the innocent observer, myself included, I was like, I didn't think that was a big deal. It was just someone calling into question some things that to me you have every right to question if you're playing on a team. But for them, it was fighting words, if you will, right? It was how dare you step over the line into my sandbox and ask about that because that's not your domain, that's not your turf. You didn't warn me and I didn't come prepped with my answer and all that kind of thing, which we don't do any of that. We're real and raw in the room, and I'm more like, you have every right to ask because you're on a team. And so just hadn't practiced that skill of let's talk about it right now, right here, without the documents and politicizing it, if you will.
So I know what EOS is, and I've read the book Traction. For those that are listening or watching, could you take a moment because you mentioned that, and if someone's like, "Hey, what are they talking about EOS?" Would you mind giving a quick summary on that for those
Not
listening or
at all.
watching?
Thank you, Mason. It's the entrepreneurial operating system, which is a system, a full set of tools to help you run a better business if you're an entrepreneurial leadership team with 10 to 250 employees.
And it's based on the book Traction.
Yes, Gino Wickman's work. And there are lots of books around the Traction Library, but Traction is the orientation around vision, traction, and healthy vision, getting everyone on the same page with where you're going and how you're going to get there. Traction is that discipline, focus, and accountability to execute on that vision for the
And
long
that
term.
involves numbers,
It
like real
involves
numbers and
numbers
goals.
for sure, for sure. The data component is all scorecard numbers, measurables, as we call them. And then healthy, because the truth that, being told most leadership teams, entrepreneurial leadership teams are not that healthy. I like to say we move people from being a team of functional, healthy or functional leaders to a healthy, cohesive, functional team because where you go, your team goes.
'Cause that book's not warm, fuzzy, fluffy
No.
theory. That is a practical step-by-step scorecards, targets. It's it's not warm fuzzies and kumbaya.
It is a playbook for how to implement a system for solid execution, strategic execution, for sure.
So, what was the moment in your career when you realized that avoidance was not a soft issue, but a performance killer?
I think because I've had the great fortune of growing up in an entrepreneurial family business, as well as being an entrepreneur myself, and then coaching entrepreneurs, it gives me a 360 appreciation in my own body as well as observing enough people that issues left undiscovered, untalked about, avoided become problems. If you can get them while they're issues, while they're, hey, you and I disagree, or the numbers aren't in the tank or in the hole, or if it's our processes aren't working and we're aware of it and we can make small course corrections, it's a smoother ride. It's less disruptive. When we let them fester, they become anchors on your business. So I think avoidance is just one of those ways of I'm trading short term comfort for long term pain.
Gotcha. So, can you walk us through a real conversation that you facilitated that completely changed the trajectory of a company? Because I'm betting you got a whole bunch of those too. Give me a good
Yeah.
one.
So there was a company, many companies, I bet you deal with some the very same. Every year comes time to do our strategic planning. So we set higher goals. Even when we haven't really attained the ones this year, or we might have missed the mark by some or a lot. And instead of unpacking why and really being honest, the team just goes on autopilot and they set the next higher goal. And this particular team, it was their third year with me, and they were like, well, we're going to set the higher goal. And between one of the leaders and I, we pumped the brakes, and I just said, okay, well, what makes us think it's going to be different this year? Because it's our third time at bat, and we're really not hitting it out of the park. We're doing okay, but we're not hitting what we said. Why would we raise it? And what's significantly going to be different? What do we have to unpack? And we take out our toolbox to start looking. Well, they churn on this for a while. And then the sales leader Most courageous moment. This was one of those team moments where you go, I wish I could have videotaped this because it would help every team. I said, we've got to take a break because we were stuck. We were just spinning, saying the same things over and over. She said, while she was on break, she came back and she goes, I'm going to say something. I don't care if I'm unpopular. But she said, I don't think we need to grow. I think we need to cut our company in half. And she said, and I might be part of that downsizing. And I literally would not have predicted that in a million years, Mason. I would not have looked up and been like, somebody's going to walk in here and go the complete opposite direction. And in fact, very humbly, self sacrificially, and generously said, yeah, and I might be part of the problem because I'm in sales. And it was the most meaningful conversation we ever had. They did decide to downsize. They downsized by not half, but it was significant. It was probably a third of the company. It was about a 30, 40 person company, and it was significant. The sales leader was not one of the people that ended up, but they did it in earnest with the people in the room. The leadership team had a strong evaluation of each other. And when I say that, there was some fighting. There was some healthy conflict. There was some unhealthy conflict. One of the leaders was not invited to come back. It was not her. But at the end of the day, that company went backward. And within about 18 months, they had doubled. And so they went backward to go forward. But it took someone putting the elephant on the table that was not at all where the conversation was spiraling.
See, that's one of the things that I like about the EOS model is that you have numbers, and it's when you set goals, you're measured. There's accountability for that. I had a gentleman on a few months ago by the name of Bryant Wright. He's a famous coach in Missouri. He coached 8 state high school cross country championships, and in the last 17 years, the worst his boys team has done is second in the state
Wow.
in 17 years. And I had him on, and we ended up writing a book together. And I learned a lot from him. It's called Built Right, WRIGHT. But I learned a lot from him. And one of the things he talked about when he set goal setting and realistic goal setting is he would take his all state champion juniors and seniors. And when it came time to goal set, he would sit down with them and he'd say, okay, what kind of times are you looking for? What work have you done? How many miles did you put in the off season, and where's your fitness level now? So he had an idea of what kind of workouts in length and duration and intensity his athletes could do.
Hmm.
So he could basically put together achievable workload. So they knew what the work was, just like with your EOS system, you know what the numbers you have to hit. He could basically say, hey, these are the goals, but this is the work that's required to get these goals. This isn't fantasy land. This isn't wishful thinking. This is the work that's required. But what I found fascinating that he did is he would have freshmen sit in on the goal setting session with the seniors. So the freshmen knew this is the work. If you want these outcomes, this is the work that
Right.
you need to be able to do to achieve that. And it's not realistic for a freshman to be able to do that workload because their bodies haven't adapted and so on and so forth. But they know what the next 4 years of their high school running career are going to look like. And it's like, okay, well, as freshmen, where can we get you? Here's the type of work that these guys did when they were freshmen. And here's the kind of outcomes that they got. This is the work that's required. And you're willing to put in this kind of volume and you're willing to put in this kind of intensity, or you're not. And if you are, then these are the likely outcomes and those are not. And I think that what you do is that with business.
Well, you're kind. What I think is so powerful about what you're saying is he established a baseline for what it took to be great or greatness, as we
Oh,
talk
yes.
about igniting right out of the get go with a freshman. So I'm sure it was weeding kids out too who went, are you kidding? Like, that's too serious. I thought this was going to be fun. I think mastery is one of those things that people unknowingly, like, you want that result, but it's a lot of work. And he's setting that bar right out of the gate. I mean, that's so powerful.
Well, and
You see the future.
when they won their 8th state championship in a row, which had never been done in the state of Missouri, he realized those kids that were juniors and seniors, they were in like 3rd grade the first time that had happened. So they had known nothing but success, 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 success. None of them wanted to be part of the crew that blew it.
Right.
And when they knew this wasn't guesswork, like this is what it takes, proven history of success. So there's like, I'm willing to do that. I want to be a state champion.
Yeah.
It's a very, very good culture, but I love what you're talking about with how you apply those same principles in your work. So
Repeatable.
what is the most uncomfortable truth that you've had to deliver to a leadership team, and how did they respond?
So I had to, in thinking about that, there was a team. So my brother and I both do the same work. So he's also an implementer. And he had a company, and I had a company that shared the same CEO, visionary, as we call him. But he had one company, separate company from the one I had, but the visionary is the same person. Well, in his company, the integrator, or what might look like the president or the COO, was having real friction with that visionary, which many people did, and he was ready to quit. And so my brother was talking to me post his session and said, "Hey, I don't know how to deal with this situation because the two of these guys might need a divorce, basically." And I said, "Well, you got to call them in a room and have them have the hard conversation." And he was like, "Well, would you not mind sitting in? Because I think with two of us, it'll equal some of the temperature," because it was pretty contentious at the time. So we strategically, this is pre pandemic. So I say that because we intentionally picked a small room, because some of the dynamics of team conversation are things you can control, like an intimate room, so that we are forced to be close and eye contact, and there's not a lot of space for gesturing and moving. So we picked a 4-person room. My brother and I took the heads of the table and put them across the thinner part of the table. And right before we started the meeting, I just went, I don't want to waste their time. They're really highly compensated, smart people. And so we came in and asked the question. He and I were very aligned, but I said, "Do you guys want to be divorced?" And that was, I just opened with, it was a cold open. And the two of them, because we had a lot of relationship between all four of us, they both said yes, which was not the answer we thought they were, because they came to have a meeting for a half day with my brother and I. So we said, "Okay, well, then this is really easy. We've got to get the terms of, disillusionment so we can get you guys divested and just keep moving. And we aren't attorneys, but we can have you get to some talking points." Well, 2 hours later, they're still bickering. And I'm fed up to here because they can't agree on anything. And so I said, "I need a break, a bio break." I'm the only female in the room, but I'm like, I need a break. My brother runs out and he goes, "What is happening?" I go, "They don't want a divorce. They're bickering. Like, let's get in there and make them figure out how to be decent. If they wanted a divorce, we would have figured that out in 30 minutes, but we're still here 2 hours later banging our head on the wall because they're picking apart the what's and and I'm like, "No, no." So we walked in and we talked with them, and my brother and I navigated this very beautifully together. But we basically said, "Do you really want a divorce? Because it sure doesn't seem like it." And 2 more hours. So it was a total of 4 hours. We crunched it out, and they worked out what they were upset about with each other. They had personalized some things that weren't personal. The integrator wasn't able to do his job to the best of his ability because the visionary was swooping in and causing disruption like they do. And they set new rules of agreement, made some agreements. They're still together to this day, running a great company. But it was that breaking point. And I think left alone, it would have been personality driven versus principle driven. And we brought them back to what they needed to be talking about was not each other. It was, you have some behaviors that are really in the way. And if you want the goal, then you got to let me do my job and get out of my lawn. Don't come over and weed my lawn. Let me do my lawn. And as soon as we could do that, it freed up the integrator to do his work. And they have done very well since.
So, can you give me an example of a small, and I'm using air quotes here, small issue that a team kept avoiding that turned into a much bigger problem later?
Yeah, one that I would tell you is small, but it happens a lot, is founders often make really great businesses and they're excited about it and they create it. but they don't realize they need a number two. In other words, that counterpart who loves running the business because over time they get mired in the running of the business, which they're not very good at. And I have one of those, and he is one of the most ambitious, fabulous salespeople. He's wicked smart, like almost all founders are, in a way where they know everything, but they can't teach and train real well because they don't think in linear fashion. They don't really want to run a company. They want to grow a company. And once they grow it, they're kind of stuck with it. And so they don't realize they need that counterpart called an integrator or somebody to actually who goes, that's my genius. That's what I want to do is take the thing and make it efficient and maximize it. And so they get stuck in this point where they burn through leadership team members. And the person I'm thinking about, he has burned through so many teammates. And we've had to take a couple of breaks where I've said, until you find a counterpart, you're going to keep burning through some really amazing people because you're just too intense to work inside the business. You need to be set free. And I think that happens well beyond this person I'm thinking about and
Sure.
way more common because you don't know that number 2 is even a possibility.
So this is a topic that's of particular interest to me. Can you tell me about a time when a high performer was actually the biggest source of friction, and how did that situation play out?
Often, and it always comes or most often comes down the sales lane. So I can tell you that, there was a company you're making me go down memory lane in some painful and wonderful ways. So
That's all right.
Um, this is that same gentleman. It's a perfect lead in. This one, top salesperson, happens a lot in my construction companies or roofing companies. This is a really common thing. Top performing salesperson, and you end up being hostage to that person because they're the keys to your revenue, right? And yet they're not playing fair and they're very difficult to work with. And say, so they cause all kinds of cultural collateral damage, lots of damage.
Oh, yeah.
And so that CEO loves them because they're good for the bottom line. And so they excuse a lot of bad behavior. But you get some great team members who are going, it sucks to work here. I mean, why would I keep working here when that jerk over there gets away with murder because he brings in money? So you lose top performers. And in this case, the sales team, there was several salespeople, all the rest of the team, literally 5 other people, went to the CEO and said, us or him? And literally the CEO was like, what? Because they called an impromptu meeting. They had it, knocked on the door and said, make your choice. You tell us we have this great culture. You tell us we're running on EOS. You tell us all these good things. But the truth is, if we would make that amount of money, we can do whatever we want. So it's us or him. And that little coup was a turning point because that CEO took it to heart and said, he's got to go. And it's the most courageous move because he was no longer hostage to the big producer, and the team, in fact, as a result, rose and the company grew. But again, the CEO felt very threatened that I can't do that. I'll lose my shirt and all my clients will leave, which is not, in fact, true because they aren't always all that lovely on the outside either. They are really good at getting sales, but if they can't play well, they shouldn't stay.
This reminds me of the conversation Bryant Wright and I talked about this as well. And what it looked like for his team is because, I mean, if you're going to win all those championships in a row, you're not planning on, you're not organizing your team. You're not treating your people just to win now. You're also to win later, because winning now and winning later are not mutually exclusive choices if the culture is built correctly.
Right.
And he really stressed with his athletes the importance of belonging first and it not being contingent upon results or ability. Because a freshman who's chubby and never run before, they're not going to be able to deliver the results that a all-state senior is. But if he said, if I couldn't help those kids feel like they belonged and that it was unconditional first, he's like, then they wouldn't give me their best effort because our culture would be sending a message to them that some people matter more than others. And that's not acceptable to me. He goes, a freshman, he goes, my currency that I wanted all those kids to spend was effort, because a freshman can give me 100% effort, same as a senior can. He goes, that's the currency that they can all spend. So he goes, I wanted belonging based on effort, not on talent or results. And he goes, My seniors, like a top performing salesperson, uh, they don't escape additional responsibility. They're given more of it.
Yeah.
They are
Yeah.
the ones that are the examples to the freshmen and the sophomores. And I understand that top salesman disease, but this is a guy that built something that lasted all these years because of doing things differently. Than he didn't just let his top performers who are getting written about in the newspapers and are on radio and our TV and all this fancy
At a
stuff
young age.
at a young age, but those guys are the ones carrying the tents. The seniors are the ones setting up tents and carrying the coolers, and
Love it.
that was the kind of culture that was there. So this top salesperson's disease,
It's a
that's
real
an issue
thing.
for a lot of it is a real thing. Let me think. Hmm, what does avoidance sound like in a meeting? And when I say that, I'm saying, like, what are some of the exact phrases
Mhm.
or behaviors that people would recognize?
I can rattle off a bunch. Don't die on that hill. Let's have a meeting after this meeting. You and I, Mason, we'll just take that offline. Let's not bring that up here. We can solve that if we're in our team meeting. Oh, I can talk to that person. I'll do it one on one. We don't need to deal with that here. The time doesn't feel real right now. I think we've got to just gather some research, get a little data. We might be jumping the gun a little bit. I don't know if those numbers are exactly right. We've got to just check on that and validate, make sure it's right. Or it could be, well, that's not me. That's actually my team, or that's the other team that's not here today. Or when I was talking to so and so, this happened. So I'm sure that has something to do with this. It's always a skirting of we're right here. The elephant is here. And it also can be squelching silence when silence is actually doing the work. And I will tell
Can
people
you
when
expound on that a bit? Expound on
yeah.
that.
So if there's this pregnant pause and you viscerally feel something, you or me or anyone, that is your first signal that you're onto something. And I don't care what the something is. Sometimes when I've been in a room with my own team, I'll be like, can I ask what's going on? Because I can't name it even. I feel something. I don't even have the thoughts yet. It's just there's something swimming around and somebody in that room is aware of it. And silence can do the work, but it also can be, I can't name it. So I'm just going to call it out and say, what's going on right now? And wait. Don't fill that. Don't ask another question. Don't try and clarify it. Don't try and make it logical because gut is so valuable in those moments. I tell people my intuition gets me in trouble, but it gets me out of trouble because those moments are where I'll be like, what's your face doing right now? I ask about body language all the time as the observer. I'm watching other people while someone's talking. My job as a coach is to see what the dynamics are because we speak 93% of what's going on is not coming out of your mouth. So if I can just go, hey, Mason, that doesn't look like your yes face. Can you tell me what you're thinking? At worst, at my very worst, people will go, oh, I'm just thinking. And I'm trying to figure out how. And so you're off the hook. You'll tell me. But if I'm onto something, immediately there's a cascade and it talks really, really fast, or people go, oh, it's nothing. I wasn't really paying attention and doing my grocery list. And I'll be like, okay, well, let's catch you up to speed with where we are because that didn't look like it was going well over there. Or I'll just say, are you sure? Because I don't want people to think we're naive when your body is communicating because a lot is body language, but the verbiage sounds like a lot of things we take as, oh, it's not a good time right now.
So, what's a situation where being nice inside a leadership team caused real damage to the business?
We have a chapter in my book, in this issues book, called You Shouldn't Want a Nice Culture. So I love that you asked that question because nice in Minnesota. I'm from Minnesota. And if you aren't from here, you may not know that the world refers to us as Minnesota nice. And I say nice is an acronym. Nothing in me cares enough to tell you the truth. I would rather say it behind your back to someone who can't fix it. That is a cultural, or geographic norm, I will say. So nice can look like, oh, I'm trying to think of Kim Scott's word. It's empathy and it's an E word. It's so good. But anyway, it's empathy to a fault. It's where I won't say the hard thing with you here because I'm too worried about what happens to you. That's how people phrase it. What I would tell you, Mason, I really believe with my whole being is I don't think you'll like me anymore if I say what I'm about to say. So I'm just going to be nice, and I'm putting up air quotes for your audience, instead of saying the hard thing, because I'd rather be comfortable. I'm putting bubble wrap on me, not you. But I couch it in a I'm being benevolent and kind. I tell people be kind and clear. You can be kind and deliver hard messages if you can remember that every truth does not mean the relationship's at stake. A lot of times we think we're trading a relationship for telling the truth. And I think the best relationships don't work that way.
And I think that kind or correction is kindness. If as long as it
100%.
is specific, calm, and grounded in observation.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
So when you walk into a company for the first time, what are some of the early signals that tell you that issues are not being addressed?
Well, this is silence the other way, not the kind we just talked about. This is silence like somebody asks a really good question and no one has a really good answer. And it's just he who speaks loses, that kind of silence. And so that's one of the ways that it shows up. I talked about body language. Again, you can see that people have thoughts, but they aren't expressing them because it's not safe enough in the room. So they won't, even though you see they want to. And I'll beg that out. I have a question I used with that I usually say, if we were courageous, what would we do right now? Or what might you say? Just to give people a little permission. If you see the same issues in EOS, we have an issues list that we talk about, cascading what we need to talk about. If you see the same issues on the list for a period of time, like 3, 4, 5 meetings, that's avoidance, right? We're not getting to those because they're not important, and it's usually not a tactical thing. It's a people thing. It's a process thing. If you don't have issues on your list, that's an avoidance because if you're growing, you're going to have issues. That's just normal. Like if you're getting better at anything, you should have issues. We should look at them as a source of energy. Lightweight kind of things like, hey, what color? This is the one I always toss out. Like, what color should we go with for the holiday party? And it's like, is that really an issue? Or is that just somebody decide and run? Like, why are we using meeting time for that? So, those kinds of things. But I'd rather have that than nothing. Defensiveness, not focusing on what's best for the company. I mean, there's a lot of ways it shows up, and they're very normalized, practiced.
So what's one question that you ask leaders that consistently stops them in their tracks?
I think I just gave you one of them, which is if we were courageous, what would we do right now? Another one that I will ask is something like, hey, Mason, what are we pretending not to know right now?
Hmm.
Because what we know is not coming out. Because there are things that you could say to me that might be a difference maker. Asking what would be the single most impactful thing we could decide today, and decide because that pushes for resolution, or what do we need to solve? Not what do we need to talk about? What do we need to solve?
I
Because
love
now
that.
it's forcing the answer.
So tell us a little about your new book. I know it's just come out.
Yes, today.
All right. Well, let's celebrate. Tell us about your book. What inspired it? What are the key takeaways? And how do people get it?
Well, get it anywhere you get good books. And if you can buy it today, I don't know that this podcast will be out the day, but it's doing well. It's April 7th. So it's like, go buy it anywhere you can get books. I would say your local people, because I like to see them win. What is it about? It's about, I think, the hardest, most intangible part of EOS, but really of any business is how do you identify what's in the way and solve it fast and permanently the first time it comes up? And that's a loaded thing. Like that sounds so simple. And our methodology, identify, discuss, solve, is how we talk about doing that. You make a list, then you identify, dig to the root, discuss it once, solve it. I would tell you the most neglected skill is identify, and we've got tons of ways for people to dig at that in here. We've got a toolkit that's immensely packed with values, whether you run on EOS or not. People are too good at discussing and they don't really identify or solve. And so we try and weight it more heavily on. There's a great quote from one of my fellow implementers, Alex Freitag, and I issue identified well is half solved. So if you can get to the root of something and 80% of issues have to do with process or people, you can move a lot faster. But it is the byline of the book is what it's about: removing friction, fast tracking growth, and igniting your greatness.
Who did you write it for? Who's your ideal audience?
Entrepreneurs, entrepreneurial companies with 10 to 250 employees. But I would tell you honestly, humans. If you have issues, you're normal. How do you get better at saying what the source is, getting to the root, and then making it go away fast and permanently? I mean, I don't know anyone who wouldn't benefit, but teams in particular, go get them.
If there was only one piece of advice that you could give to anyone watching or listening today, what's the most important piece of advice you could offer and why?
Great question. I would say create safe enough spaces for people to tell the truth and thank them when they have the courage to answer the question, even when you don't like the answer.
That's deep and it's true. As leaders, our decisions are only as sound as the facts in which they're based. And you can't see everything, you can't hear everything, you can't know everything. You have to rely on other people. And if they don't share the truth with you about what they see, what they feel, what they think, and why, then by default, you don't have the inputs to make good decisions.
Right.
That's
Well
very,
said.
very wise. So, if people want to connect with you and learn more about you and the work that you do in your company, what are the best ways for them to do that?
Well, thank you for your gracious invite. LinkedIn, we have a group that's by invite only, and you're all invited. It's called the No Avoidance Room. So it is a safe space to work through things, and I appear there and help people as often as I can. We have a thing called the Issues Gym, which is more of a paid place to build the muscle to solve issues more effectively for the long term for anyone in the company. And then sayyes.com is our website if you want to learn more.
Is it say yes with one S or two S's?
2 S's at the
See, I
end
was
and
paying attention.
2 Y's in the middle, and you did pay attention. You are on it in every way.
So spell that out for the people that are listening.
Sayyess as in Sam.
There you go. It's been a pleasure having you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Mason, you're the best. Thank you.